Just to get started, these are some funny little memes that I found that I think are very appropriate for back to school. The big purple one is, I don't have to go to Walmart to find all these different matching tubs and matching bins for my classroom library. And then poor Mary up at the top. She used all of her energy and time and money decorating her jungle-themed classroom. So don't be like Mary this year. One of the fun tips that we'll talk about is all about not being like Mary. And remember, if you did join us in our webinar back in April, there was no tired, like end of year teacher tired. And that was a lie because back to school has now started. And there is no tired like back to school beginning of year teacher tired. So whether you have already started school in the past couple of weeks, whether you're starting tomorrow like me or starting in a few weeks, my goal tonight is that you're going to have some fun. Hopefully you're in your pajamas, you've already had dinner, and you're just going to relax and get 10 fun, amazing tips to help you save some sanity. And just like they announced before the webinar started, if you have any questions at all during the webinar, please type those into your message box. And while I can't see them or answer them right now, ESGI is on hand to answer those if they can. And then I will also be given those questions. And I'll be writing a blog post and I can email you back and answer those so that you can be ready for back to school. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I did this for the end of the year, but we also feel challenged and stressed for the back to school season. And these are just some of the reasons why teachers are so drained back in August, even though we've had this whole summer to relax, which most of us probably worked if you're anything like me. But the first week of school is more draining, they say, than running an actual marathon. So you could go run 26 miles and not be as tired as a teacher back to school, which is pretty crazy, especially if you teach pre-K and kinder and first grade. Those days are draining. We have new behaviors of students that we're having to learn, new kids coming in, especially kindergarten because it's like Christmas. We don't know what we're getting. So it's a brand new group of kiddos and we're having to learn those behaviors and it can be very, very stressful. Parents are always a fun one as well. Sometimes you get a great group of parents that are very hands-on and willing to help in the classroom. And then sometimes you don't get such a great group of parents. So learning that is also just as stressful. And we have the back to school paperwork and forms that you have to fill out for the classroom and the school. So it's very, very stressful in that way as well. But not only that, we come into the first day completely wiped out and drained because we've already been to school for 1 to 2 weeks with meetings and in-service and professional development and forms and more forms and setting up a classroom. And this is all before students have even arrived for the first day. And then just the anxiety of starting a brand new great year, because it is going to be a great year. It's just very overwhelming because we don't know what's coming yet. So a lot of this can make us feel very challenged and stressed out. So the goal today is to help that and fix that, because I don't think we can completely take away all of the teacher stress, but today's goal is to help you manage it to make it happen. The number one way that I say to help you save your sanity is ESGI. And I say that because when we get a new group of kids, we really don't know their levels and their abilities, and we need to get that quickly. And one of the great things about ESGI is that you can log on, you can assess your entire class with reading and math and basic skills in 1 to 2 days max. And the great thing about this is that you are going to be able to maximize your instruction from week 1 of school. So if you are not familiar with ESGI, which stands for Educational Software for Guiding Instruction, it is a one-on-one assessment tool that you can get online and use with your students. You can plug in your students' names. There are already hundreds of pre-created assessments for your grade level. And the great thing is that you can go in and create your own assessments that match your needs and the skills that you are covering. So if you look on the screen right now, this is just an example of one of my students from last year. And you can see on the left-hand side the list of all of my students. But I can go in and automatically see data on my entire class. I know if they have mastered their capital letters, their lowercase letters, if they can count, if they can recognize numbers, if they can do one-to-one correspondence, if they can read their sight words. So it's all right there at your fingertips, and I can print it out. I can keep it in a binder. I can access it from home on my phone. I can access it from school. So it's very, very useful information right off the bat. I'm not having to spend the first 2 to 3 to 4 weeks just assessing those basic skills before I can introduce instruction into my classroom. So the great thing about ESGI is that I can automatically assess those students. I can go one-on-one. I can walk around the class and do this. I can pull them back to my table, because some of you are probably thinking, okay, Jessica, I teach kindergarten, and there is no way that I can assess students on the first couple of days of school because they're still learning how to be a human in the classroom. I get it. But that's the great thing about ESGI. I can carry around my iPad, and as they're working and they're working in small groups, if they're on the rug, if they're reading, if they're using the restroom and we're on the rug learning procedures or reading a story, I can easily go up to that student and complete the assessment right there. That is the great thing. It's not pencil paper. It doesn't require a lot of time. And I'm ready to start instruction. I want to get through the first couple of days, but I have the data that I need to get that going. You'll see on the screen, if you are not an ESGI user, that you can go on to ESGI software and put in the code WILD, and it's going to save you some money. The great thing is, though, is you can go on and get 60 free days right now. So you can go ahead and plug in your student names from your roster. You can immediately access the tests that are already there for you and get started right away on day 1. So if that doesn't help you save sanity, like, I don't even need to do the other 9 tips, because if you can assess all of your students in 2 days and get ready for instruction, like, everything else just kind of mellows out. So if you do have any questions about ESGI, plug it into the question bar down there at the bottom. They'll be more than happy to answer it, but trust me, those of you that use it can probably sit here and say, yes, it's amazing, it's worth it. And those of you that are kind of on the fence, I highly suggest it. Go try it. You're really going to find that it's an amazing tool and resource in your classroom to save some sanity. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, kind of a scary one if you're new to teaching, or even if you're not new to teaching: communication. Starting off the year right, and remember, back to one of those challenges and stressful things is getting to know new parents. It can be a very big challenge. So getting ready to set the tone for a positive communication throughout the year is a really, really great thing to help you save some sanity for you and your parents. But not just parents that need communication. Teammates. We want a great and strong relationship built with the teammates that we teach with. And I know some of you might be saying, well, Jessica, we always have that one person on our team that just does not communicate. And that's okay. You cannot go and change somebody. But if you start and show that example of positive communication and open communication, it's going to override the negativity within that team. Communication with your administration. So if you're planning on sending something home to parents, if you are having, struggles with your team, let your administration know about these things. Have that open communication with them as well. And then your aides and paraprofessionals within the building. If it weren't for these people on a campus, I think the campus would fall apart. Those of you that have aides and paraprofessionals come into your classroom, I know with me, I have students that need additional resources and additional support. So I do have some aides that come in and assist those students. And if it weren't for good communication, then it would be very difficult to provide the needs that the student needs for extra support. So making sure that you are communicating, whether it's via email, you're communicating via notes within school, you're contacting them at least once a week, or setting a goal of once a month, depending on how often you need to communicate with those people, and just make it a priority to have that open communication. I also know that in a lot of teachers' evaluation processes, that communication is actually one of the standards that we're evaluated for. So making sure that it's not only with parents, which is a great way, but it's also with the other staff within your campus and in your team and in your administration. Luckily for you, I just did a blog post a couple of weeks ago about positive parent communication. You can go and check it out. It's at jessicatravesteaching.com, and there's actually some downloads and free things for you just to kind of help you get kick-started. It's more geared towards parents and not necessarily for other staff members within the school or administration, but just giving you 5 quick tips on how to make that parent communication positive, such as sending home positive behavior notes, how to organize and keep track of that parent communication, and then even down to some shout out cards that you can give for parents as well. So you can go and check that out. It's all free. Don't do it now. Stay tuned for the next 8 tips. But those are some things that will help you get started throughout the year to keep that positive communication, because it's going to save your sanity. And I say that because how many of you have received an email from a parent and before you click open, like you're already sweating, like, what does this parent want? What are they needing? I just talked to them yesterday 6 times. So really keeping that line of communication open in a positive way will help make the year a little bit more smooth. So number 3, start basic. I think a lot of us, when it comes to back to school, we want all their shiny supplies out on the tables when they arrive. We want all these perfect arts and these perfect crafts and all the books laid out that we want to read. And it becomes a little bit overwhelming, especially for me. I know I'm starting the first day tomorrow. Tomorrow is day 1 for me of this year. And I'm starting basic. I haven't run a lot of copies. Now, I do have a lot planned, which will be another tip that we'll get to. But when I say start basic, when your kids come in, have no supplies out, have no papers out, they don't know the expectations yet. So if you have all of this morning work set out on your tables and all of these high expectations for them to do, it's not going to go as planned. And so your very first day is going to start off a little hectic already. And it's really not a good way to start day 1. So if you look in the picture, this was our first day from last year, and I just put Play-Doh out on the tables. I know some of you, like, you just cringed when you saw the word Play-Doh and heard it. But something hands-on for the students that doesn't require an expectation. So they didn't have a worksheet. They didn't have a pencil. They didn't have colors or crowns or markers or anything else. It was something simply that was out there for them to explore and to create. So you can put a bucket of cubes or a bucket of counters or Legos, something that they're going to be excited about and they can create and pique that curiosity, but there's no expectations as far as supplies. I just suggest keep the bare minimum out. They don't need a lot. Let the rest of the day and the next few days be for setting that tone for the expectations of when they come in. And after you've introduced those expectations and procedures, then when they come in, there might be supplies out and there's going to be other things besides the Play-Doh and the Legos and hands-on things. But start basic to help save your sanity and save your kids' sanity. I teach kindergarten, and I have never taught a year of kindergarten where there were not tears involved on the first day or the first 30 days. But when kids see something familiar, they are more likely to come in and be okay with that. And they're not going to be a stage 5 clinger to mom and dad. Oh, there's Play-Doh or there's Legos. I really want to go play with those. And so it also kind of helps that separation on the first day for the parents' sanity. And those of you that taught kindergarten, you know what I'm talking about. And even first grade or pre-K, there's definitely some kids that are afraid to detach from their parents, which is completely normal. But if we can provide a very basic and fun way for them to arrive on that first morning, I think we're saving everybody's sanity on that one. So just a little tip. Number 4, get some help. I wish I could see your hands raised if I asked, who taught kindergarten and who taught first grade. It's okay to ask for help once school has started on those first couple of days. And I have a little acronym for help. It's help every little person. And that might be just my kindergarten mind frame, but when they come in, we're teaching them how to survive in the real world. We're not rolling on the floor. We're not throwing things. We're not just getting up and visiting. We're not just walking out of the room whenever we want to. It's a whole new world and we need help. So it is okay to ask for that help. Even if you've taught 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, there's no reason you have to do this alone on the first couple of days because you're going to lose your sanity. Trust me. I taught first grade for 8 years, and then I moved down to kindergarten, and I said, this is going to be a piece of cake. It's just 1 year difference. And I literally cried the first week. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I can't do this alone, and that's okay. Ask for help. Most of us have probably 15 to 25 kids in our class, and that's a lot. Um, it's okay to ask for help. One of the great things that we do at our campus is our principal, our assistant principal, and our counselor come and visit every single classroom on the first day of school. So that is 3 of our other staff members that come in to offer assistance. And so if you'll look in the picture, that's our counselor, and she dresses up in the bee costume, and her name is Mrs. Honeybee. And she is buzzing all over the school, and she is there to seek out students who need support, or maybe even teachers that need support. It's true, some of us need it on those first couple of days. But she comes in and just lets them know, hey, this is school, this is your classroom, these are your peers and your friends, this is your teacher, this is who I am, this is what I'm here for. And it just helps the students get to know the other staff members that are in administration and in our office, but it also comes in with an extra set of eyes. So these other administrators and the counselor are coming in. Yes, they're helping, but they also get to know the students, and they get to offer assistance to you. So this is a great time if you have questions, or if you have a student that's come in and you already have some red flags or concerns. This is a great time to share those concerns with these other administrators and adults. So it's okay to ask for help. If you're sitting there saying, well, I'm in a very, very small school, we have like a part-time counselor, only 1 principal, no assistant, it's okay. Still ask them for help. Ask them to just drop by and read a story. That's another thing that our principal does throughout that first week. She comes into every single classroom and reads a book to our students. She introduces herself. She kind of gets to see the students and the kids. They can ask her questions, and then she's already starting to build those relationships as well. So I would just highly suggest, if you're thinking you won't have that support and help, just send an email and try. It's okay. And just say, I don't want you to come in and help me right now. I just want you to come in, meet my students, see our classroom, let the kids get to know you. It's okay to ask for help. I've said that like 10 times, but it's okay, because I think a lot of people think that they have to do it all on their own. You know, this is their classroom, these are their students, and they feel like they're isolated, but you're not. Ask for assistance, invite other people from the school. Those first couple of days, there's a lot of paraprofessionals and aides that might not have a group of students or a class. Invite them and just say, hey, can you come sit and watch? Can you make sure that they're getting to the restroom, that they're getting from the rug back to their seat okay? It's okay to ask for help, because kindergarten and pre-K and even first grade, it can be scary those first couple of days. And I guarantee some of you have already had the back to school nightmares about classroom management, or just something crazy happening in your classroom. It's okay, we've all had them, but just ask for help and assistance. So it's okay. Also, another thing about asking for help, we just had this huge discussion today, dismissal. If that doesn't scare you on the first day of school, you are a rock star, because my biggest fear is that students are not going to get home. And we know in those younger grades, a lot of them forget their name at dismissal. So you say, Michael, are you ready to go? And they just look at you, and you ask them if they're Michael, and they don't know. They don't know. That's okay. They're just nervous, and they are still learning the procedures. Dismissal needs help and assistance. So we have 6 classes of kindergarten on our team, and we're requiring at least 3 to 5 additional sets of hands to come help just for dismissal alone, to make sure they get on the bus, they get to the car rider line, they get to the walker line. Just asking for those extra sets of hands, because dismissal is scary. It's not just your grade level, it's the entire school that's trying to get out of the building. So ask for help at dismissal. Yeah, some of you are like, yes, dismissal scares me. If you've ever lost a student or had one not get home and a parent come up to the school, you're going to have a fear of that as well. So ask for help in all areas. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help. All right, so this is when I was talking about where I haven't run a lot of copies for the first couple of days, but I have planned plenty. So tip number 5 is planning overload. You want to plan way too much. And the reason I say that is my very first year of teaching, I was teaching first grade, and I, was just so excited. And this was before Pinterest. So, we had to like come up with all our own ideas. And I laid out this whole side sheet of plans. And I said, okay, from 8 to 8:14, I'm going to do this. And from 8:14 to 8:27, I'm going to do this. Yeah, I thought that's how teaching went. You could just plan it and it would work out like that. It doesn't work out like that. So if you're a first year teacher and you've done that, it's not going to work out like that. So plan overload. My very first year of teaching, after I had made those plans, I said, all right, I'm ready to go the whole first day. At 10 o'clock, I had gone through the entire plan of the day and I was stuck with nothing to do. So as a first year teacher, that was very hard for me. I was like, let's read another book. Well, let's go on a walk. Let's go visit the office. So you don't want to have to come up with that filler time. Plan way too much. Plan for extra crafts if you are going to run something. Additional activities or things that you might want to copy or you think you might get to. Plan extra read alouds. Pick some of your favorite books. And guess what? Here's another secret. You can read the same book twice, more than one time. It's okay. You can tie in another skill with it. That's perfect. Builds up fluency. It's okay. Plan for extra time for just hands-on exploring. Our kids need to touch lots of things before they are sent out independently. So if you're one that likes to start your stations and your centers right off the bat, you're probably going to realize that's a big struggle. So letting them explore those materials is a great way to save your sanity. And it can be anything from little erasers that they might explore with, cubes, counters, markers, dry erase boards, giving that time for exploration so that when the expectations are there in place, that they're going to know how to do it correctly. They've gotten all their playtime out of the way and exploration so that they'll get to what they need to be doing correctly. And then also plan for some specific discussions. Maybe you want to get to know students, have them share something that they did over the summer, have them talk about a family pet at home, play those get to know you games. Do you have any brothers or sisters at the school? What's your favorite subject? What's your favorite food, your favorite color? So just planning for those extra discussions and question times with your students can help you plan for that time as well. You don't want to be done at 10 o'clock on the first day. So I suggest just plan way too much. If you don't get to it, you don't get to it. But that way you do have plenty of activities and resources that you can use throughout the school year at a later time if you have leftovers, and saving your sanity those first couple of days. Because let me tell you, I was in a panic that first day when I had nothing to do after 10 o'clock in the morning. So learn from my mistakes and plan way too much. All right, number 6 is one of my favorites, but at the same time, I'm most guilty of it as well. So less is more. And when I say this, I'm talking about setting up your classroom. Some of you have spent all summer long trying to set up your classroom. Some of you have probably just started thinking about it. That's okay too. And it's okay. But my biggest thing is to not stress over decorating your classroom. And I'm going to say this, I think social media has made a lot of us guilty of this because we get online and we see all these Pinterest-worthy classrooms and, people are spending way too much money on providing furniture and all of these things for their classroom. And it makes us feel guilty that we are not doing that as well in our classroom. And so, I'm guilty as well. I see things online. I'm like, oh, that would be really cute in my classroom. That fits my theme. That's okay. But I don't want you to stress over not having your classroom set up. And I guarantee you that when you ask your students what they notice on the very first day of school, yes, they might look around your classroom, but they're looking for you. They want to know who their teacher is. Who are they going to be with? They don't care if your word wall is halfway hanging. They don't care if you don't have your shape posters up yet. Don't stress over the classroom. And so it's okay if your bulletin boards are empty right now. You don't have to fill them up. Fill them up with your students, with their work, with lessons that you're teaching, with charts of information as resources. It's okay if your supplies aren't organized. We had Meet the Teacher last night, and there are supplies all over my room. That's okay, because tomorrow when my kids come, we're going to talk about expectations and where we can find those supplies. So I'm going to use that in part of my daily activities tomorrow. It's okay if the teacher next door has their room complete. Don't compare yourself next door to your teacher across the hall who has the perfect classroom. It's okay. And it's okay if you had to shove a bunch of stuff in your cabinets before your kids came. I mean, I am totally guilty of that. I have plenty of storage in my classroom. I just shove it in there and then I'll get it out later, and I probably still won't do anything, so I'll shove it back in there. It's okay. Your kids are not coming in to look at your room and think about where they're going to spend the next year. They're looking at who they're going to spend the next year with. So I say less is more. And it's okay if your room is not completely ready. I didn't even put my student birthdays up until November last year. Don't tell. I still celebrated them. They just weren't visible in the room. Um, but it's okay. Less is more. Save your sanity. Don't sit here and stress yourself out about what's missing in your classroom. Focus on how you're going to meet and greet your students. Focus on the activities that you're going to be doing that first week to build relationships, and the activities that you're going to do to get to know the data on your students. So the walls will come later. You've got 180 days plus some to decorate the walls in your classroom. Less is more. If you get it all done, that's great. If not, that's great too. So save your sanity and do not worry about having the Pinterest-worthy classroom and having it all up for your students. It's okay. In time, it will put itself together. So number 7 is be tough. And I might have some drill sergeants and Army members in the picture, and I don't mean come in like a drill sergeant, but come in tough. Come in ready to repeat expectations. Come in ready to provide those drills for your students. And when I say tough, I mean kind of be a little bit tough. You've got to set high expectations. Keep that structure. We know kindergarten, it takes a lot more than one to 2 weeks to set those expectations, and pre-K as well. I remember reading in college, they said, oh, 2 weeks is all it takes. And those kids, you're going to have them right under control. So when I moved down to kindergarten after 2 weeks and I was still wiping tears away at the end of the day, kindergarten and pre-K, it takes a little bit longer. Some of these kids have never been exposed to a classroom. They've never had structure. They live with 1 or 2 siblings or no siblings. And here they are coming into a classroom of 20 students. It's okay that it lasts longer. And I think kindergarten 4 to 8 weeks is a great way to set those expectations and to be tough. Set examples for your students. I remember when I first started teaching, they said you got to tell, tell, tell. Well, I think if you show and do it with your students, you're going to save some sanity as well for you and your students. Stay consistent. Have all of this planned out before your students get there. Know exactly what you want to do and what you want your students to do. And I can do a whole webinar on just classroom management. I know we don't have time for that tonight, but my motto is that if you do it wrong, you're going to do it all year long. So if you are just wanting to, see all these cute students come in, and they are cute, but you're not really setting the time to focus on those expectations and those procedures, you're going to be doing it all year long. So what do you want them to do when they come into the classroom? Where do they sit on the rug? Where do they sit at their tables? How do they line up? How do they use their restroom? How do they use their supplies? All of these different things come into play when you're trying to set those expectations for your students. So save some sanity and just be tough at the beginning of the year, and it'll kind of fall into place for the rest of the year. It's much easier to be very structured and consistent at the beginning of the year and then slack off if needed, but it's a lot harder to start off slack and then have to get tough on the students. So set it from day one when they walk in. Otherwise, you do it wrong, you do it all year long. And that's no fun, because that's why we come back at the end of the year for the end of the year saving your sanity, right? All right, number 8. This one might be my favorite on here, finding your joy. And I know it sounds simple, but we had our in-service last week and this week, and we had a therapist come in who used to be a school teacher, Dr. Kelly Jameson, and she came in to talk a little bit about stress and finding your joy. And I said, well, that's easy. I mean, my family is my joy. They make me happy. And she's like, nope, your joy is something that makes you happy alone. And it doesn't have to be a trip to Italy. It doesn't have to be a vacation to the beach. It's simple things to find your joy. And it can be something as simple as you like a glass of wine, you like a cup of coffee. Maybe you want to read a book that's not related to school, something that makes you happy. Maybe you want to take a bubble bath once a week, watch a baseball game, watch a movie without your kids at home, something that gives you joy that you can handle within a week. It doesn't have to be something that you have to buy a plane ticket for or go out of town. Finding your joy. And so it was all connected to stress levels. And she said that there's 3 types of stress. And the first, if you're in a stage 1 stress, it's okay. That's a healthy stress for you. Some people thrive when they are stressed, and they work better when they are under stress and under that pressure. And that's okay. That's a healthy stress. But then we get to a point when it's not healthy and it becomes toxic, and we are spaced out, we're zoned out, we lose sleep, we either eat too much or we starve ourselves, we don't have an appetite at all. And that's when it becomes unhealthy for us. And a lot of teachers at the back to school time are in that stage too, when it is dangerous and toxic to our health and our overall well-being. So finding your joy. So she challenged us, and she said, I challenge you to list 20 joys. And I was like, well, that's going to be easy. I like bubble baths and reading a book. But when you get to about 5 or 6, it's very, very hard. So making a list of your 20 joys, and I challenge you to do this, not right now, you can wait till after the webinar, but things that make you happy that you can actually do. So don't say, well, I want to go to France next week. We know that's not going to happen. If it is, take us along with you. But something that's very, very simple. So whether you like, a pot of coffee, maybe you want to go to Starbucks one day, maybe you want to get your nails painted, something very simple that brings you joy. But the biggest part is finding another person to hold you accountable for that. Because I can sit here all day long and write my joys, but if I don't actually go and do them, it's not really helping me save my sanity and lower those toxic stress levels. So finding another person, and we did this as a campus, every person listed their joys, and we had to find another person on our team or someone on the campus that holds us accountable. And so we're just going to kind of check in periodically, just send them an email, said, hey, have you found one of your joys this week? You've done a great job. Welcome back to school. Make sure you find your joy this week. Pick a joy and go help yourself de-stress and relax. So finding that person to hold you accountable, find your joy, find it simple, and make a list, and just leave it maybe up in your car visor, leave it on your desk at school, leave it somewhere in your purse maybe, or your bag that you carry with you, somewhere that you're going to see it and not forget about it. Because as she was saying, when we stay in that level 2 toxic stress levels, it's very damaging to our health. And when it damages our health, it damages everyone else around us. So if we come in to a classroom full of eager students who are ready to learn, and we're in a level 2 toxic stress, we're doing nobody any good. So keeping that health healthy for you back to school, list your joys and hold yourself accountable, find an accountability partner, and making sure that those joys are becoming a reality. So I think that's one of my favorites, finding your joy. Ooh, number 9. This is a fun one for teachers. Our busy nightlife. You got a big nightlife, right? As a teacher, you're in bed by like 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock, eating dinner on the go. That's okay. But we're going to use nightlife for sanity saving purposes to plan ahead at night. Because I know a lot of times, for me personally, I get up at 4:30 every morning. I get myself ready. I feed the dog. I make lunches for the boys. I have to get my own kids up, have to make sure they're getting dressed, and they're not the fastest people in the morning. I'll just tell you that. So it takes a little bit of time to get ready in the morning, and then we're out the door by 6:30 every single day. So if I don't plan ahead at night, I'm already starting the day completely stressed out, losing my sanity before I've even made it to school, which is not good for me or my students. So when I say plan ahead at night, what are some things that you can plan? Plan your next day school lunches. If you're one of those that likes to plan ahead, make your lunches before the first day of school. Make it on Sunday for the entire week. Now that's really planning ahead, making it for the whole week. So if you do that, you are a rock star status. Now, some of you might laugh about this, but plan what you're going to wear. I don't know how many times I've stood in a closet and I'm like, nope, don't like this. This doesn't fit right. And I spend 10 minutes of my morning, if not more, some days, not every day, just figuring out what I'm going to wear. So if you can lay that out the night before or the week before, you're ready to go, saving some time. Pack your car at night so that when you're ready in the morning, you're ready to go. And now some of you are probably saying, now Jessica, I didn't even get my teacher bag out of the car. You're ready to go. You've already planned ahead. So that's good. But if you did get it out and you did some work at home, put it back in the car at night so that you're ready to go. And then plan your to-do list for the next day. What are some goals or things that you need to do the next day? Do that all at night. I know it sounds like a fun nightlife, right? But plan ahead. You know, your school lunches, your outfit, get your to-do list, pack your car. That way, when you wake up in the morning, you're refreshed, you're ready to go, you're not stressed, you've got your sanity for the day because you had a wild nightlife planning ahead. So that's another challenge for you. Number 10, which we'll get into a little bit deeper. It's not the same as planning the nightlife, but setting small goals. And if you'll notice at the bottom, I've highlighted 3 to 5 goals maximum. Research says that if you plan 1 to 5 goals, you're most likely going to achieve and make sure that all of those goals are met. You're going to meet all of those goals. If you are one that plans anywhere from like 4 to 11 goals, research says that you're actually only going to master like 2 to 3 of those goals. And if you have over 11 goals, research tells us that most likely you're not going to meet any of those goals. So I say keep it low, 3 to 5, so that they are achievable. So you're asking, well, Jessica, what kind of goals should I be setting? So on the side, you'll see goals for planning for the school year. Getting back into that routine of setting a day that you're going to plan your activities for the next week. If you're one of those that comes in the morning and says, well, what am I going to do? You're probably a little bit more stressed out than someone who has already had that activity planned. So set a day, say every Thursday I'm going to plan the next week's activities, or every Wednesday or every Friday, whatever is convenient in your schedule. Find a day to plan for that. Goals for organizing. So maybe on Friday planning periods or your Friday lunch or Friday conference, you're going to set a goal that says, okay, I'm going to put all of my papers back in the files. This is the day I'm going to clean off my teacher table and my teacher desk. This is the day I'm going to organize. Set a small goal for that. Goals for students. Maybe you want to eat lunch with your students or build up more relationships with your students. Or one day a week, you're just going to have a relaxing time and you just do a read aloud that you can have your students just listen to. Some type of goal for your students that way, or you can do an achievement goal. So you might say, well, every second Friday of the month, I'm going to use ESGI and assess my students to see if they have increased in their skill levels. Or every Friday morning, I'm going to use ESGI or some other type of assessment that your district might use to show student growth in this particular subject. So set a small goal for that as well. And then goals for your team. You kind of have to live with your team a lot during the school year. So making sure that those relationships are positive ones is a really great thing to strive for. So maybe once a month, you all order lunch from outside and eat as a team inside a classroom. Or on the weekends, maybe once a month, you all go do something, go out to eat or get your nails done or do something fun where your kids get together. Some type of goal that makes your team cohesive outside of school, because you can lose your sanity within a team quick. So making sure that you set small goals with not only your students, but with your team as well. And remember, keep it minimum 3 or maximum 3 to 5 goals. Setting just one goal though is going to be great for your sanity. And when I think back again, kind of getting off of this, but when I think about when I started teaching, one of the things that they said was maximum amount of rules and procedures in your classroom is 3 to 5. And I was like, well, I have like 20 things I need my students to do. But research was telling us to group the amount of rules and procedures within our classroom 3 to 5, because once it gets over that, our students are not going to follow through with them. Neither is the teacher. So not only is it in just planning and creating goals for yourself, but it's also in your classroom and how you run a productive classroom. Less is more. Less is more. So making those goals a reality and achievable. So those are the 10 tips. This is just another example of keeping those goals. You can keep a binder to help you, keep a planner. And here's another thing. I know there's some wonderful, great, expensive planners, but the ones from Walmart, I know from personal experience, do just the same job. So you don't have to go buy a super expensive planner. You can even print one off of Google for free, just to make sure that you are holding yourself accountable for those small, achievable goals. And you can keep student checklists. I keep them, I just run them off on a half page. I have them there for everything. So if we're turning in field trip forms, if we have students who brought lunch money, if we have students who still owe this form to the nurse's office, whatever it is, I have that right there readily available to set goals for organization and set days for your specific to-do. So on the previous slide, we talked about setting a day to plan, setting a day to organize and clean your room. It sounds silly, but how many times do you leave your room feeling stressed out because it's just a complete mess and you can't even see the tops of the tables? So it sounds silly, but really it's one of those things that adds to our teacher stress levels, and we don't want to stay in that level too toxic. I want to get back to the healthy stress where I'm running on adrenaline, and setting those small goals is one of the ways that you can do it. So I have some extra tips for you as well. And when I read through the questions prior to the webinar, a lot of you had some questions about these, so I'm hoping that I answer a lot of those. If not, send it into the questions and I will get to those later. But some of you asked at the back to school sanity saving tips for meet the teacher or an open house. How do you set it up? What does it look like? How do you go about that in your classroom or in your campus? And so one of the main things for meet the teacher is you get to see your students and your students get to see you. And one of the main things that you really need to have out for your students and for their parents and their families is just information. They're going to have a lot of questions. They're going to have questions about the school. They're going to have questions about you and about your classroom and the schedules and things that they can do and can't do and things they can bring and can't bring. So saving some sanity for back to school, having that information available at the Meet the Teacher or the open house. And so a lot of teachers create packets. They'll have an all about me page. They'll have classroom rules and procedures and things for their campus that students and parents can read later that evening. There's also some student information forms that you might want to include within those packets of information, just so that you can get to know your student. I had to fill all those out for my own boys last night, and I know for my youngest, he's going into first grade, it was questions such as, well, what is his favorite subject? And how does he learn best? What motivates him? What is he scared of? Does he have any anxiety about anything? Are there any questions that you have? Tell me about your child. So not only is Meet the Teacher for the student and the family, it's for the teacher as well. Like I get to meet the family as well. Excuse me. I shut off my microphone for you. Another thing that I like to say for saving your sanity is the teacher team tip. And this is one thing. Now, if you're the only teacher on your team, I say go vertical. So go ask someone that teaches above you and someone that teaches below you. But if you do have a team that you teach with, I challenge you to go ask your team, each member, one thing that they're going to do either the first day of school or the first week of school. And this is just a way for you to gather ideas or to reassure yourself that what you have planned is okay. But I call it the teacher team tip. Go around, ask them, hey, what's your favorite thing that you're going to do on the first day of school? Or what's something you have planned in math on the first week of school? It's just gathering those ideas and building that team relationship up as well. And you're getting to use that in your classroom. So those are some extra tips. I had a few questions about back to school events, and I'm not sure if you were a teacher or an administrator, so this could go either way. But for back to school, of course, meet the teacher and open house. And then some things that our campus does is the night before school. So tonight, actually, it's 7 o'clock, which is already past. Our principal does a read aloud for the entire campus. And she does a Facebook Live. And so kids and parents, they can get on in their pajamas, they can watch on there, and then our principal reads a book. Now, if your principal doesn't want to do this, you, the teacher, could do this. If you think all the way back to one of the tips was parent communication, One of those ways is setting up a classroom closed group Facebook page. And so if you do have that to communicate with your parents, you could do a read aloud for your students the night before school or anytime throughout the year would be a great idea. Also tonight from 5 to 6, we had a Chalk the Walk. And so it was BYOC, which is bring your own chalk. And we got to just share positive messages on our campus sidewalk. And so it was have a great year, or I love Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so. And it was just really leaving your mark on the school year to set up for success. And so the kids really love that. They can draw pictures, they can write inspiring messages. The parents can write inspiring messages to the teachers and to their own children and students. And so that was a really, really fun event for back to school. And then 2 weeks ago, we had popsicles with the principals. And so it was kind of our kickoff, the back to school season, end of summer kind of event. And families came and got to eat popsicles and got to see their friends. It was on our playground at our school. And it was just a really great back to school event to kind of end summer, to let friends see each other. You know, whose class do you want to be in? And what did you do this summer? And I hope I get so-and-so. So it's a really, really good back to school event. And I'm curious about this too. So in the questions, it doesn't have to be a question. You can leave a statement. What are some of the fun back to school events that you might do with your students or that your campus does? Share those, because I know a lot of people were asking for their own campus and for their own curiosity, what are some things that we can do for back to school? So those are just some of the things that we do to really get involved with our students and families, but I know there's a lot of other great ideas out there, so go ahead and share those. And then relationships. Some people asked, well, how do you start building relationships with your students? And there's not really one right answer, it's just being there for your students. The first day I like to take their picture so that I can start memorizing them. I want to get to know everything about them. I want to know what their favorite color is. I want to know how many pets they have at home and what they did this summer and what they like and what they don't like. I want to know all of that because not only can I use that in my instruction, but I'm building a relationship with that student. And when you can build a relationship with that student, you have them for the entire year. So above all curriculum and above everything else, if you have the relationship, you have them for the curriculum. It just falls into place together. So get to know your student. What do they do outside of school? Maybe you want to go watch them play a baseball game or a football game. Showing them that you care and showing that the families that you care is really going to be positive in saving everybody's sanity that's involved. So I know it's back to school, and I know we're like 10 minutes early of an hour, but I know a lot of you are already back to school. Some of you might have already fallen asleep and you woke back up, but thank you for joining. I really wish you the best of luck this year and a fabulous year. It's okay to have a little bit of stress. I think if you didn't have any stress, I would worry. In fact, at the end of the day, before I was packing up and leaving at school, there's a brand new teacher. She's a first-year teacher, and she just had that look in her eyes like, I'm not going to survive tomorrow. I'm not ready. And I looked at her and said, it's okay. I'm not ready either. She said, but how many years have you done this? And I said, well, 12. This is year 12. And she said, but you still get stressed out? I said, yes. I said, whether you've taught 1 year or 10 years or you're in year 30, you're going to get stressed out. You're going to have a to-do list that's never ending. You're going to be anxious and worried about the students that are coming in and what you're going to do and are you prepared enough and what happens if this happens. And that's completely normal to have that stress and anxiety. It just tells me that you're excited for back to school. You're excited to be teaching. You're excited for this new group of students, and that's okay. But when it becomes an unhealthy level of stress and you need to save some sanity, I'm hoping that some of these tips tonight you can use in your arsenal and you can pull out and find your joy and make this year the best year ever. So thank you so much. I'll be reading those questions later, and I hope you have an amazing school year. I put my email and website down there. There's lots of the freebies that I was telling you about for the parent communication. My Facebook page, there's always some downloads and things that you can use there as well in your classroom for kinder and first grade. And if you have any questions, there is my email. So thank you so much for joining. I hope that you've saved a little bit of sanity for back to school and that you have a great year.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for presenting this great information today. And as Jessica suggested, ask for help. So remember, Jessica is available to answer your questions on her blog, Jessica Travis Teaching, and make sure you follow her there. If you've tried ESGI in the past, please check out the new features and over 1,000 custom assessments ready to go in the program. Now, for when less is not more, Jessica, the prize time.
Yay, the best time.
Yes, the best time. So our two lucky Amazon gift card winners. The first one is Vanessa Hinton. Congratulations, Vanessa.
Yay.
Our next Amazon gift card goes to Amy Laws. And the moment you've all been waiting for, congratulations. And the moment you've all been waiting for is our 5 lucky ESGI winners. And the first one, Abigail Freiberg. Next, Monica Dela Cruz. Next, Crystal Lagallo. Jonah Lang. Karen Zotek. Congratulations on winning ESGI. I'm so excited for you.
Yes, you're going to love it.
Absolutely. So everybody, don't forget to check your email in the next 2 days to find your certificate of participation and a link to the recording of this webinar. And if you've missed one of ESGI's previous webinars, you can find the recordings all on ESGI's YouTube channel. So check it out there. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great school year.